Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tyler Rohde, and thank you for listening to Comics Corner. I recently sat down with Jim Dailakis and Bryan Cork and talked to them about comedy and various other things for 30 minutes. I hope you enjoy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am right now sitting down with Bryan Cork and Jim Dailakis, both comedians, very funny, many stuff like that. How you doing, Jim?
Hello there, Tyler. What's going on? I'm good. I'm really good.
And what about you, Bryan?
I'm doing really, really well. I'm inside where it's air conditioned. Awesome.
Yes,
Because it's
good.
hot outside. It's hot.
Speaking of which, where are you from?
I'm from Chicago.
And you, of course, are from Australia.
Yes, I am more southern than anyone here will ever be. Sorry, that was. Let me get rid of that so that doesn't happen again. All right. Yes, I am from Australia, from Perth, which is exactly halfway around the world. So if you were to drill a hole with a jackhammer on a diagonal, you will end up in my parents' backyard, and they'll probably make you dinner.
So, how big is comedy in Australia?
It's huge. It is. It's really big, and where I come from in Perth, it's actually it seems to have surpassed all the other cities, because Melbourne was the mecca of the comedy industry in Perth. That's where the Melbourne Comedy Festival is, and Sydney was really popular. But now everyone, including comedians from America, are going to Perth because there's a gentleman there who runs the club, the Perth Comedy Lounge, and he really knows what he's doing. He's using a different model to what a regular comedy club owner or promoter would use.
What do you mean, like, different model?
Well, over here it's become, the landscape's different, and I'm sure Bryan would agree with me, it's more of a, we need you to have a following. Whereas over there, he said, no, he's a British guy. He goes, no, I don't care about a following, I just care if you're funny. See, your job is to be funny, my job is to bring the people in. And people can argue all they want, that model is working because his shows are packed and sold out every single week. And now he's branched out, he's got theatre shows, and he just built another comedy club in the center of Perth in the city, and he wants me to, well, I won't say that because then I'll have every comedian, their dog and their dog's fleas, calling me, but he wants to bring more international acts from the UK, from Canada, from the US, but he just wants to see how it's going, and apparently it's really going.
When did you, Bryan, start comedy?
I was 35, so I've been doing it like 22, 23 years.
Wow.
And I got divorced and realized that I needed to get some mileage out of her. So I ended up doing stand-up, and she's still a part of my act. So I've got a lot of miles out of her.
Speaking of miles, how is it to be a road comic? For both of you. Question for both of you.
Well, do you want to go first? Or?
Well, it's not. I'm not on the road as much as I was. I really enjoyed travel because you get to see a lot of interesting places. I could control a little bit where I'd go. I would go to the Pacific Northwest in the summertime, and so I could go fly fishing and camping in the mountains, and so that was really fun. But at a certain point, I like being in my own bed, and so being on the road loses some of its appeal. This is nice here because they really take care of us in this club. The condo where we stay is nice. They're really good at the club, but that's not always the way it is.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, that's funny that you should say you'd like to be in your own bed and you're a comedian, because comedians like to be in everybody else's bed. But well, for me, when I first came to America, I was and I'm still there in New York. All I cared about was just the craft, and money wasn't important. I just wanted to see what makes America tick, what makes America laugh. So I would be on the road, and I enjoyed it. I was like a tourist. I was like camera happy. I'd stop. Oh my gosh, I'm in Toledo. That's where Klinger's from. Indiana. This is where David Letterman's from, and everything was associated with TV because that's what we saw when it came to America. When it came to American culture, and it was fun. But then when I got to a certain level, I said, America's beautiful, but it's just as beautiful from 38,000 feet in the air, and I can just relax. And I did, go climb the comedic ladder, and I don't probably travel as much. Well, that's ridiculous. I do travel as much. I did shows in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Canada, in the Cayman Islands,
That's
in the
a
UK.
bit far.
It's a little far, and this is a testament, because Brian and I were talking about cars and Hondas and Toyotas. The Toyota really is a reliable car, but it didn't make it to Malaysia from New York. But almost made it to Singapore. I still like to travel, but I also like just being at home and making my own meals.
When both of you travel, do you prefer to use a car, fly, or maybe even boat?
Fly. That's always, because it's safer, it's better, and I know the pilots aren't texting.
I like to fly better, but I do like I drove down here from Chicago. It's like 1,000 miles, but I like having my own car. I'm really comfortable. I have it all set up the way I like it, and so I'll fly sometimes, but then you got to rent a car, and I do like having my own car.
I just bum the car off Brian when I'm here.
I just drive the Australian guy around.
Yeah, he's my ride.
These foreigners, you got to take care of them. Jeez.
What are your influences?
I would say mostly stuff that happens in my life. I mean, I try, everything that happens in your life. Not to mention my wife is a really good influence because she says crazy things and it gets to go in my act, and it's hilarious because she'll do something and I'll say, "Oh, that's funny," and she'll go, "Oh no, that's going in your act, isn't it?" "Yeah, it is." And she'll say, I don't think it's that funny." "Well, honey, trust me, I'm a professional. I know it's funny."
Well, for me, it's just probably similar. I don't have a wife, but just experiences, life experiences. But if you're talking about a specific comedian that inspired me and influenced me, it would be, the first one was Eddie Murphy for sure, because I'd never laughed that hard. I saw Delirious. I was maybe 20. I couldn't breathe. And then, who were the other ones? Rita Rudner. She would come to Australia a lot, and I thought she was fantastic. I still do. And she was very popular in Australia. And then George Carlin, when he would come to Australia, he was amazing. And he did the more stuff you have, the more you need. I loved all that. And then. And when I came here, it was and Ellen DeGeneres. I guess I thought she was really funny. Every time I wrote something, she would do a special, and it would be similar to what I had. I go, "Oh, damn it!" But I'm not saying I'm Ellen DeGeneres, but she was inspirational. And then there's Brian and I were talking about this today, that it's usually comedians that no one knows. Some people know him, but Rob Bartlett for me was probably the biggest influence, because he does what I do now, because I wanted to aspire to do what he did. I said, that is the funniest guy. I want to do voices, impressions, I want to be animated, I want to do, and to this day, he just blows my mind at how funny he is.
We were talking about that. Some of the funniest people we know are people that no one else.
Yeah.
The people that we think are the funniest are guys that are out just working on their craft. They're out. Those are the guys you see out on the road. Some of the funniest people you ever see. People get disappointed when they see these LA comics. You know, these LA comics, well, that guy wasn't that funny. Well, the really funny people oftentimes are not the people that they know.
Yeah.
You know, they're people that are out busting their tail, writing and working on their craft and getting funnier. And I really believe that some of my favorite comics are people that, you know, most people wouldn't know.
Jim,
Yes.
did you start did you start comedy in Australia, the US?
Both. Because when I came here, I was invited to the Actors Studio and to the Lee Strasberg Theatre Institute. So I was mainly an actor, but then and studying acting. Comedy, I always say, was a pleasant accident. And one of my Irish acting friends said, "You know, you're so funny. You should go and do an open mic night." And I said, "What's an open mic?" And she took me, and it felt good. And it was in some dive in New York City. That was the first time I ever got on stage, was in New York City. And then when I went back to Australia, I thought, I've had experience in New York. I'm a New York comic. And then I ended up several years later when I said, all right, this is my last stand-up show, because I was doing it periodically. And then I said, this is my last stand-up show, I'm quitting. And then a guy comes up to me after and says, I'd like to take you on an Outback tour and perform for the mining camps. So I was performing to all these guys that looked like Crocodile Dundee extras and pushing cars through crocodile-infested waters and driving through the Gun Barrel Highway and in tents and stuff, and then in other times in 5-star hotels. And then I ended up coming here and doing it all over the country. So I started at both.
Speaking of Australia, is there anything that people over in America find funny that many Australians don't, or vice versa?
We were talking about that today, Brian. The C word in Australia is a term of endearment sometimes. It's also just funny to us. So we find that funny, and here, not so much. Or I think Brian's coming around.
Do you do politics and religion? Do you have the same, like politics and religion in Australia, the same problems with it
Correct.
that you do in the States? So they tighten up about it too?
Yeah, although in Australia it's not, they don't tighten up as much as here. Like I was telling Brian the other day that if you go and see a movie on television, if you watch Scarface, all the swearing's in there, all the violence is in there, all the sex is, everything is in there. No one really cares, you know. It's just, so it's not. It's like, yes.
I like his headphones. They make him look really important, don't they? Like he's going to be landing planes or something.
Yeah, well, they're on and off.
Yeah. Tyler wants to
Constantly
be a
blinking,
DJ.
changing colors.
He wants to be a DJ. They change colors and everything.
I actually do DJ.
Well, there you go.
You do DJ?
Well, at
Like
At
kids
the Comedy
parties?
Club.
What?
At the
At the
Comedy
comedy.
Cabana.
Oh, you work at the comedy club DJing?
yeah,
Oh,
I don't only cook.
He looks like an
he's
alien.
a DJ who cooks.
Just getting messages from aliens.
Yeah, they're the one that's giving me the questions.
Yeah.
They're not doing a very good job. Whenever you get up on the mic, go up on stage, maybe for the first time, or maybe it still happens, but does it ever feel weird to hear your own voice?
Not to me at this point.
It did in the
I think
beginning.
it's weirder when you hear it in headphones like that, or you hear it recorded. It sounds different, but hearing it on stage, it sounds the same as when you hear your voice when you're just having a normal conversation.
Yeah, because you've never heard your voice before, that's why. And then when you get used to it, you go, is that what I sound like? And then you get used to it. But then I do a lot of different voices, it don't matter. Yeah, so it's it doesn't feel weird.
I thought it was interesting the first time I went on stage. I think the first time you go on stage, it's a long build-up. Like, you've been thinking about this for a long time and coming up with material and all this stuff. So the first time you go on stage, man, you have built up to it, and I'm going to make this happen. And then the problem is, after you do the first time on stage, it's like, oh no, I got to start all over for the second time. So the second time was actually way harder for me than the first time. Because the first time, it's like you've built this up in your mind. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, man. I'm going to do this. And then you do it, and it was fun. And you go, now I gotta write a whole bunch more stuff. Oh no!
Second show Friday.
How do you describe your comedy?
Animated, non-offensive, and internationally understandable to everywhere. I can do it anywhere, and people will get it. I do adapt it a little bit to different places that I'm in. When I was in Singapore, I saw every single. There were expats from the U.S., from Canada, from Germany, from the U.K. You name it. They were from Australia. There were people from Hong Kong. There were the local Singapores. There were Vietnamese, and I just thought, wow. And I did my thing, and they all got it. And I just thought, that's good.
That's what's interesting. Joe and I were talking about that. What I find interesting is when you have people from other countries watch your show, it's interesting to talk to them afterwards to find out which things they got and which things they didn't. Because there's a lot of things that you think are, universal, and you find out they're not. And then vice versa, there's things that you wouldn't expect them to get, and they did. So it's always interesting to me when I talk to people from other countries to see what they understood and what they didn't.
Also, my act, I like to describe it as really funny.
And I'd hope.
Me too.
If it wasn't, why would we hire you?
Yeah, well, wouldn't want to be, here's 45 minutes you can't have back.
Yes.
That'd be bad.
So you go to multiple clubs around the country, some even around the world, different things like that. What's something that, like Comedy Cabana here, has that a lot of others don't or do different?
Southerners.
And it is South Carolina.
It is South Carolina, here in Myrtle Beach. What was the question? What do they...
What is different?
I actually find that people are the same all over the world. I think that funny is funny, and all around the world people want to laugh. That's the places I've performed anyway.
What does the club, like Jeff and Christine, the owners, do differently that other club owners...
They provide hookers and... no, I'm just kidding. No, they don't. This is probably one of my favorite clubs in the country because they've become friends, and it's like a family. It's like a family club. And I always joke that when I leave here and I get home, there's like a little ounce of depression. It's like that, the same feeling you have when you've gone on a holiday and you've come back. That's how I feel when I leave here. So that's a really wonderful atmosphere to be around. And I love the audiences here. And as Bryan was saying, I don't do them anymore, but I used to do places where the condo was a prison cell. And and there'd be cockroaches on dead cockroaches on the... I'm not kidding. Do you know there was one comedian, Eric Deskin, he did something so funny. He saw 2 cockroaches, and before he left, just to send a message to the club that this is gross, he did a chalk outline of the body. Like a CSI cockroach, it's so... Yeah.
It's what I think is interesting about this club is that they really take care of the comics. They're sort of, not only are they friendly, but it's, go to the club, hey, you want something to eat? Hey, you need anything? Want to get to the gym? And it's sincere. It
is sincere.
And a lot of times clubs will open up. When they first open up, they really take care of the comics. But then before you know it, and some comic has ruined it.
Yeah.
And then, I did a club in Evansville, Indiana, and the people that owned the comedy club owned the pizza joint right next door. So when the first time you went, anything you want from the pizza place for free, it's awesome. And then the next time I go, you get a discount because some idiot had to have a
That's
pizza
nice.
for breakfast and a pizza for lunch and a pizza
Pizza
for
for
dinner
dinner.
and then a pizza after the show, and somebody screws it up.
Yeah.
But they have been doing this a very long time, and yet still, they're very sincerely taking care of the comics, and they're kind and they're friendly, and they
And
set you
sweet
up
to the
with
audience.
golf, and this condo is really nice, and I mean it's very homey. Like they've got the old pictures of them and their kids and all this stuff. So it is like family, like you're visiting your family, and that's really cool.
Plus, I see them go to great lengths to please the audiences they come in, like the patrons, and making sure they're okay. And but I think no one screws it up here because they have a very high standard of who they're going to have here. Of course, look who they have this week. Yeah. Oh, that's him calling now. Go ahead. Hey, I'm just doing a podcast, Jeff. We were just talking about you.
Yes,
You're on the air.
but it is.
Are you there?
It's unfortunate that there aren't more clubs that behave in this way. Well, and the other thing is that Jeff and Christine are intimately involved in the running of the club. They run the club. A lot of times in other clubs, they brought in somebody to manage, and they got a 24-year-old guy who's never done never known anything about the comedy business, and then within 6 months they know everything there is to know, and they want to give you advice about really. So I've been doing this for 23 years, and you've been doing it for 6 months, but you know more about it than I do. Oh, okay.
Of course.
Thanks. Yeah. And so it's a much different. I think that's one of the big things with Jeff and Christine being heavily involved. Plus, they haven't gotten cynical about it. So many people after a little while they start getting cynical, and and it's annoying, and they treat the comics like they're a pain, and they don't. They treat you as part of the family, and that's awesome.
And the staff are also.
Yeah, the staff is really.
They're incredible.
I can attest.
Yes, of course they.
Except that guy that does the cooking is a lunatic.
Yeah.
Good
What the-
God, what
what's
happened
wrong
to
with
him?
that
Did his mother drop him on his head or something? What's the matter with that guy?
don't think he's really all there
All right.
You all there? I don't think you are. I think there's something going on in
We better not say anything, or otherwise dinner tonight's going to be on the floor stomped with his foot
Yeah.
before we get it.
Yeah, he's crazy.
And you let him drive you around. What's the matter with you, Tyler? Do you wear a helmet when you ride in the car with him? You probably should.
And knee pads.
Yes.
Hey, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever gone to a club, not naming any names, and had a feature that bombed so badly that you
Yes.
couldn't bring back?
Yeah. Oh, all week with Brian. No, I'm just kidding. He's very funny, by the way. He makes me work. So a feature that is bombed so bad that
Like, not naming any names, but have you ever had, and how do you come back if they have bombed, but
yeah, I've been in that situation quite a few times. And the funny thing is, before the feature will go on, I'll say, "Dude, this booker won't headline me." I go, "Oh, well, I haven't seen you, so I can't speak, and that's between you and the booker." And then they'll go on stage, and I'll go, "Oh, smart booker." But but to get out of that, usually if there's, and I always say this, that I don't know if you agree with me, you probably do, but I think that being an MC is probably the toughest and most thankless job of comedy, because they got to get the show together, they got to keep their ego intact, and not that the others don't, but them especially.
Yeah.
And if the MC is good, then they'll bring it back, and if not, then I'll just go, "Oh well, this is it. I just got to go up and do my thing," and then I'll probably be even more animated than I normally am.
be more
Just to-
high energy?
Yeah, and I'm high energy as it is, but even more so. Like, I might go up and... Actually, I did do this once. I jumped up and I jumped up, did a kind of like a flying kick, and then landed in full splits. And then they forgot about everything. They were just in shock, and they were laughing at it. And I pretended that I couldn't get up, which actually it was.
I tried that one time. The problem was the ambulance had to come and a gurney, and I screamed like a little girl when I tore everything. It was
Well, I screamed like a little girl too, and that's how I got them. Yeah.
my favorite story like that about I normally headline.
Yes, I normally headline.
Freddie DeMarco said had a guy come in his room and he was featuring and he's going, so Freddie, how much time do you want me to do it? Freddie said, it's 2:30. I can do more. Well, just do 30. I can do an hour if you want me to. No.
Oh my Lord.
Just do 30. That's fine. So the guy goes up and does 30 minutes and just chews it horribly. And he comes off stage and Freddie goes, well, it looks like you chose the wrong 30, huh?
Yeah.
I think that there's inevitably going to be shows. I did a show one time down in Mississippi. And like the first 30 minutes of the show go great. And then I do a bit about, there was a guy in Pensacola whose nephew got his arm bit off by a shark. And this guy went in the water after the shark, dragged the shark out of the water. They got the arm out of the shark's mouth, sewed it back on the kid, and the kid was fine. And I said, I love my niece and nephew, and if they ever get attacked by a squirrel, I am right there. But if they get their arm bit off by a shark, their new nickname is going to be Lefty. So I do this bit on stage, and the audience goes quiet. And then it's a struggle the whole rest of the show. And the manager comes up and goes, oh man, you're having a great show till you did that bit about that guy's, nephew got his arm bit off by a shark. A lot of these people knew that guy. What? That happened 300 miles away. How do I get in a room? How is that even possible? And I wasn't making fun of the guy, I was making fun of me. But no. Oh, you reminded us. Well, shut up.
Yeah. It's like people still get offended if you do a joke about Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
That's like,
Too
I'm not
soon.
caught up in my history, but I know that's a little bit more than a few years ago.
Just a tad, yeah.
Well, apparently they wasted time. You sure wasted time on history class with Tyler. I think that was a few years ago, wasn't it? The Abraham Lincoln thing. Was that a while ago? Was he before Nixon? Was he before Nixon? Yes, he was, Tyler.
I did a joke
Pay much attention.
with the Titanic survivor. Not the people. I said I'll say something about the Titanic people who perished, and it's not really offensive, but they go, oh. I go, too soon? It's 1912. The survivors are dead. Except the ones that probably, some of them are still at the casino, at the slot machines, but anyway.
You know what amazes me is they did a musical about the Titanic.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing like 1,500 people going to their watery grave make you want to burst into song, doesn't it?
Oh, glub, 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 I'm drowning. Oh, I'm drowning!
It's unbelievable that they would even do it. It's like having a musical about cancer. It's not. It's not a fun topic. You don't laugh about it. I don't get it.
Got that sinking feeling.
As a final question before we're done here, what's something that maybe not many people, possibly even no one, know about you? Very few people know.
I can't tell you, otherwise they'll know. That I'm transgender. No, I'm just kidding.
I was kind of wondering. I kind of thought that from the beginning.
Yeah, I'm Chinese. No. What don't they know about me? I guess it's going to stay that way.
I know I used to do appearances as the Amazing Spider-Man. Most people now know that was 30 years ago. I don't look quite so good in spandex anymore. It was always,
Then why are you wearing them?
yeah. And it always amazed me. What was fun about doing that character was that like when you're wearing the costume, like you really get into it. Like you feel like a superhero until some 8-year-old kicks you in the shin. No, that's right. I'm not real, am I? I did a appearance in Spain at a shopping mall doing Spider-Man, and they said, "Oh, we're going to have you swing in on a rope." And I said, "No, we're not. I'm not really Spider-Man. This is just a costume. You guys wearing that? I'm not a gymnast. I'm not swinging in on a rope." I said, if anybody robs a store here, I'll be throwing kids in the way to save myself. Trust me. I'm not really a superhero.
Maybe that's one thing. Is I wasn't Spider-Man, but I used to dress up as Captain Starlight in Perth, Australia, and they had this old. It was this a venue where when you walk through the door, you're in 1800s Australia, where they had the bush rangers, and I used to direct and write and act in street theatre. So we would do this, and I would play this Captain Starlight guy, and I made it all, like, it's all serious, but I decided it would be funnier if it was funny. And
'Cause usually that's a good tip for any of you aspiring comedians. It's always funnier if it's funny. Yeah,
and,
just so you know, in case.
It was funny to see the looks on the people's faces, because I played Captain Starlight, who was the good guy. There was a bushranger named Moondine Joe, who was the bad guy. So he would steal Virginia, the village virgin, from, he'd have a hostage, and he'd have her down, and I'd climb up. I wouldn't climb, but I'd go up the stairs to the cafeteria, which was like a saloon, and there was a balcony, and I had a real rope, and everyone would look up like, wow, and I'd go, "You don't know what I'm capable of, Moondine Joe. I'm gonna get this rope. What I'm going to do is I'm going to swirl it around, and it's going to grab that tree. Then I'm going to slide down," and I forgot what the whole lines were now because it was so long ago, but I would tell them what I was going to do, and people were like, "Ah," and they're getting all in position, and then I'd get the rope and deliberately drop it and go, "I'll take the stairs." And then but so I kind of relate with, like, I'm not doing that, because before the guy took over this place, I was they were professional stuntmen and women on horses and stuff. I mean, we still had horses and we were taught a little bit. But I'm flying through a balcony to no thanks. God bless stuntmen and women. These people are real stars, if you ask me. Good Lord.
Well, I thank you for your time, and thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Now get out and make it snappy. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Tyler.